Hello and welcome back to a brand new Player 2 review discussion. My name is Paul James and today I'm joined by Player 2 Editor-in-Chief and legend, Matt Hewson. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Here to talk about these stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about Dying Light 2 Stay Human. Thank you very much to Stride PR for providing us codes for the game. You in particular were really looking forward to this one. And look, I mean, maybe signalling some of my prior impressions first. I wasn't overly.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about kind of where I'm at now. But I guess signposting things a little bit. I'm far more positive on things these days. Talk to me about your love of Dying Light before we dive into Dying Light 2.
So, I mean, I guess it goes all the way back to Dead Island, which was Techland's first kind of attempt at a zombie kind of RPG. And I quite enjoyed the premise of that. I thought it was kind of a broken mess in a lot of ways, but there was like a lot of potential there. And then Dying Light then took that potential and made a really good game out of it that I quite enjoyed. The systems were really good, the parkour movement, it was fantastic. The zombies became a part of the environment more than an enemy, I guess.
Yeah.
In the Dying Light and in Dying Light 2, people are the enemies. Zombies are just a hazard that you have to negotiate. And it kind of changes the perception about what most zombie games are, so it's something very different. And that parkour movement in Dying Light was really cool. And it was kind of this game you could tool around in really and just have a lot of fun and play with the systems. The story was pretty, whatever. But the systems in place were really quite good. So I had a lot of fun with Dying Light and its expansion, The Following. And Techland put a lot of effort into supporting that game for a very long time. Yeah. So I was looking forward to Dying Light 2 just for that reason, because I really enjoyed the first one. And, I love a redemption story. It's taken them forever to get this game out. They've had endless delays, They admitted to announcing it way too early. And it's here. So we've been playing it.
Yeah, we've both been playing it. Yeah, thank you to Stride again for codes there that allowed both of us to play it. You're playing on the Xbox Series X. Yep. I'm playing on a PS5. And I guess if I, again, kind of discuss some of my thoughts on the franchise beforehand, I really didn't enjoy the first one. Tonally, it didn't click with me. Look, I'm not the biggest horror guy, and the night times really kind of evoked that. And it was really, really difficult at night time, especially if you got caught on the hop. Yeah. But what I guess bothered me the most was that the parkour felt a little too slippery for me. I felt like, and look, maybe I could have dialed some sensitivities around a little bit more than what I did, but I felt like it was very hard to actually access what I wanted to access when I wanted to access it, and I'd end up missing a jump that really should have been able to get, or just like, not even that, but like I'm swinging my reticle around or my camera around to aim at a spot, and I've kind of slid just past it a little bit, and I've gotten myself into kind of a point now where they're just ripping and tearing at me and it's all over. And it was those sorts of little things that really just annoyed me about the game, that just weren't quite there. And I guess as we segue now into talking about Dying Light 2, that's the thing that's impressed me the most about the sequel, is that one key component that drove me mad in the first game that just wasn't quite precise enough is absolutely right here.
Absolutely.
I didn't have any of those sort of issues at all, and there's
the movement
more mechanics
in this game, I will go on record as saying, is better than Mirror's Edge,
which is a big call, obviously, because Mirror's Edge is adored for that exact reason.
Especially once you unlock, the wall running and the improving your leap over ability, so you jump further after you leap and things like that. And once you start unlocking some of these abilities and chaining it all together, it is just fun. Like, it is glorious to just hammer through, dodge zombies, leap over buildings, use your glider, use a grappling hook, and you can combine it all into this one log. Like, it has a very minimal fast travel system. I didn't want to use it. I didn't want to use it. I just wanted to run, and that, to me, like, there's very few games that do that well. Most of the time in a big open map, you want to use the fast travel because you get sick of traveling, but the fun is in the traveling in this game. It is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, even like when you're sometimes you find yourself in a hurry, whether it's a main quest or side quest or whatever, and it's kind of the opposite side of the map. You're like, maybe even if you enjoy the traversal, there tends to be that temptation, well, I can get over there quicker and then get to business. but I've kind of enjoyed just doing the long trip.
Yep, just run.
It's not, and to be clear, I say the long trip. It's still not a ridiculous ask. Like a few minutes. It's nothing insane either.
It's not an insanely sized map at all. Like I think in game distance, I think from one side to the other is about 2.5 kilometers.
Yeah,
so it's not
pretty quick,
enormous in the scheme of open worlds.
And in typical open world sort of fashion, there's always a few little things you can find along the way. Even if you've navigated a path multiple times, there's a good chance you're going to find a sash of some sort, or whatever. Maybe you just need to get some new, restock some of your basic resources and things that keep you afloat. You're going to find some of those tucked around a corner that you've just not explored before, because typically, and it is kind of the name of the game, you are moving fast. You're trying to escape some zombies that are after you, or whatever the case happens to be, and so you don't necessarily get the time to stop and smell the roses. You need to, balls the wall, off you go. But if you take that you take that left this time instead of taking the right last time, oh look, there's some stuff. Grab rummage through that, find that, move on. Other collectibles, that sort of thing. It's really well designed in terms of the mechanics, but then what they've done just by allowing you to navigate slightly off it's an open world, but being able to go slightly off the beaten path or the path you traveled last time, there's going to be rewards for that, and I've enjoyed the way they've designed the world, and it's not over the top though.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it feels like the right size. Like there's everything's always something to do. There's no dead spots in them. I was a little worried when it started, and there was that big chemical area that you couldn't go into, and I thought, they're padding things here with an area you can't go into. But it barely came into it. It didn't make a difference at all, and then later you got to go into it anyway. But it was
a narrative obstacle.
It's a narrative obstacle. That's all that was. And honestly, I think they've designed a really, really good map to suit these traversal systems. But what also impressed me with the traversal is how it flowed into combat so well, especially against humans. Against zombies, you can wail about with your sword or your electric powered cricket bat or whatever you've got. But with humans, they block and they dodge and they charge at you with unblockable attacks, and you use that traversal, your dodges, your blocks in interesting ways, to the point where you can use it, like you can stun someone with a well-timed parry, then leap over them and fly kick someone else in the head, and then leap over them. And it's just so fun, right?
Like that particular one that you mentioned, they introduced right at the beginning of the game, within the first hour or so, and from that moment on, that's all I was trying to do.
Just get it perfectly, and then
just get that perfect,
and then you can
just leap off someone's head basically, and just boom, cannon into someone else, feet first in their face. And like, I don't know about the Xbox controller. Obviously, it doesn't have some of those features that the DualSense does.
Yeah. But
that feeling through the hands when those boots sink into someone's head, like that.
When you do the big foot stomp too.
Yeah.
Later on, you get the big jump on someone's head, 2 feet stomp thing. And
look, one of the things that's, I guess, and I don't want to spend too long, switching onto Sony pony fanboy sort of stuff, but one of the things I guess that the DualSense has done so well so far, whether it's the likes of Astrobot or whatever, or other games that I'm currently playing, is like there's a lot of subtle stuff. And I mean, if you think about, say, Astrobot, for example, there was rain or hail or whatever, and you feel those really subtle movements. But when we're talking about some of those big ones, that jump and kick to the head or whatever, like there's a heft to it, and you feel the weight through the entire controller. The triggers kind of tense up a little bit, because honestly, what else could you have done in that moment when you're flying through the air feet first? So everything kind of locks up, as well as that heft to the vibrations and movement in the controller. So it's a really, really powerful feeling when you do it. Makes you feel real strong. I've really enjoyed it in that sense. They've utilized those features incredibly well, and it adds to that immersion. So obviously that's not something that you were necessarily able to experience on your side with the Xbox controller and some of the features that, I'm not trying to hang shit, that aren't there in the Xbox controller.
Yeah.
But like that moment to moment is still, sure, that DualSense thing is an extra bonus, but that moment to moment is just so satisfying. Yeah,
it really is, and the way, and they've thought cleverly about how to use parkour in a combat kind of situation, and then implemented it in the game, which is something really quite cool, I think. I haven't seen it before. Mirror's Edge tried you never played Mirror's Edge for the combat. Let's put it that way.
And to be fair, you weren't supposed to in a lot of ways as well.
You weren't supposed to either. So I think this is the first time I've seen it done in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I really, really enjoy just getting into a scrap with enemies, and I didn't hide from them. Like in Dying Light 1, you spend a lot of time picking and choosing your battles as opposed to rushing in. This game is much more balanced in how you want to play it. At nighttime, you spoke about nighttime earlier.
Yeah.
In the first game, it was a challenge. Like it was proper. Like, and you could get really stuffed really quickly at nighttime in the first game. But this is a world that's lived. So Dying Light 2 is a world that's lived with these zombies for a lot longer. So the world's a lot more prepared, and it makes sense narratively that nighttime is now easier because there are UV stations almost everywhere around the map. You're never too far from one. And if you stay to the rooftops, you're going to be pretty safe at night. So you don't feel that instant fear to explore at night that you did in the first game. Don't get me wrong. If you make a mistake, you'll pay for it, and things can go pretty bad pretty quickly. But if you do things sensibly and you don't make any silly mistakes, then there's no reason that the nighttime should hold the fear that it did in the first game.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
It seems a lot more balanced, and it encourages you to explore that risk-reward mechanic a lot more than the first game did, you know. When I started playing, I was playing like the first game and was really scared about night, and it took me quite some time to, you know, just push it out there and go, oh, hang on a minute, it's not quite as bad as all that.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean the game's easy by any stretch. But to your point, like, if you're smart about your play, whether it's being stealthy at the right times or just precise in your platforming or just knowing what is too much, knowing when you're potentially going to be biting off too much, then you'll be okay. And you won't get punished. You can go off and more or less do whatever you want.
Yep. And it actually encourages you to, because some of the best loot for, you know, upgrading your abilities and stuff is only available in buildings that if you go into during the daytime, are just wall-to-wall zombies. But if you go in at night, they're empty.
Yeah,
so
they're broken out.
They've gone, and there's only a few in there. So it's pretty much the only way to get this, you know, these upgrades called inhibitors, which are, you know, narratively a way to boost power.
Yeah, but still make a bit of sense narratively, as you say. I guess that's a segue to talk about the narrative itself.
Mm-hmm.
What did you make of it?
It was fun. It was a fun story. It wasn't too serious. I did like the overall story of it. I mean, it's not going to win any sort of major narrative awards, but I don't think anyone had expected it to. It did more than I thought it would do. I saw like, you haven't seen it, and I'm not going to give it away to anyone, but there is a final twist. It was fairly well telegraphed. I think you'll get it before it actually is revealed. But otherwise, I liked the inclusion of Rosario Dawson's character. She's quite important in the story and a lot of fun. But it wasn't just her. Like, all the other characters seem to have just as much weight. There's some really cool, like Frank, the guy that owns the tavern, and you know, some of the peacekeepers and things like that that you have a lot of interactions with. I did like the choices, though. I think choices were real ponderers. Like, a lot of times in games, it's very easy to pick if you're playing as a good guy or a bad guy and choose. It's very binary. Yeah. Whereas in this game, almost every choice is really grey. Like,
there can be good and bad consequences.
There's good and bad for each choice you make, and it gives you a timer. And I think that time was probably the most stressful part of the game for me. Yeah. Is picking which choice I'm going to go with.
And I mean, it's not. Like, I guess there's parallels that can be drawn to the Telltale games in terms of how they throw the timer at you there, but they do that in the Telltale games so often that timer can sometimes lose a little bit of its impact, especially given some of the, not all choices can be these heavy heavy moments. Dying Light 2 offers those just often enough.
Yep, and they're always
appear,
choices.
Yeah, they're big ones and they matter, and you're scared about what a decision, no matter what you think might be right, you're scared. Well,
Yep.
what potential backlash is there to this? What's
How's it
going to
going
come
to
back
play
to?
out? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's been really fantastic. I guess if there's one criticism I have of the whole thing in terms of the narrative and the way it's kind of portrayed is that there are some fantastic actors involved, like a Rosario Dawson, for example. There are some others, and even some of the writing at times, and they're not. It's not so much the main cast, but some of the periphery, and certainly some of the real basic NPCs. Is that it's a little bit wooden. It has that
English
Eastern
is a second
European
language.
sort of that you've kind of seen from a lot of games from that part of the world, typically, where you can tell that English isn't the first language, and that no matter how proficient your localization team has been, there's always that slightly wooden feeling.
Yeah. You can tell that the NPCs and some of the minor characters have been not the same level, like Troy Baker or Rosario Dawson. Some pretty big names right there. So they're obviously not of that level, and it's.
But you can even tell some of those cases. Yeah, maybe there's been something's gone a little bit funny through the localization period, and so it's almost as though the actor's gone. I'm reading this, but it doesn't quite read right, and so you kind of hear that stilted sort of thing in the voice every now and then. Yeah, this is very minor stuff.
Absolutely.
We are still talking about, as much as the narrative that we've had so far, I've really enjoyed. It is still a zombie game at its core, as you've said. Not that I've gotten there, but the final twist is not necessarily a massive twist if you're paying attention from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
There's enough that's been telegraphed. There's enough that's been fairly straightforward, but it is good for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just a shame that some of those moments do kind of, I guess,
tarnish it. And there is a couple of little things like that in Dying Light 2 that I found. Like, this isn't a perfect game. There's some of that open world jank that you get sometimes. Like, I think because we're playing pre-release, and there was a hefty patch that went out yesterday or the day before.
There's been a whole lot of patches so far.
So, I've only noticed one big one on the Xbox. Maybe there was a few more on the PlayStation. I'm not sure.
There was one extra one, and don't worry, day one people, you won't have to worry about this unless you decide you want to play it 1.0. There was straight up an issue with the booting on the PlayStation 5 version that it locked before you even got into the game in the main menu.
Okay.
I think if I remember, it was the difficulty settings screen. I don't know. I'd finished downloading the game, didn't get a chance to actually play it for a few hours, and somewhere in the middle there, the email came through saying, we're rolling out a patch to address this. I'm like, oh, okay, right. People have already said, thank you for pointing out. I'm like, I didn't even get that far. But
no, you didn't get that far? No, I had none of that with the Xbox. I had a couple of audio glitches where the audio would just stop working, and I had to close the game and start it again. But I have a feeling I think if I go back now, that'll be fixed. That feels like pre-release.
They're day one, day zero patch sort of things. So it's not necessarily uncommon in that respect. The game looks good though.
Looks really good. Really good.
I've really enjoyed things through that side of it.
And there's some really cool.
There's tech issues, and we've highlighted some of those, but kind of visual tech glitches are not really something.
No, not really. The occasional zombie stuck in a object, but that's
which is always funny.
They might be stuck in a car or something. Very rare though. This is not something you see all the time. I've seen it. I could probably one hand, count how many times I've seen it.
Yeah. Just to be clear, that patch that I was talking about, I just found in the email. It was when you were adjusting the brightness. How most games get the brightness right. That's where it happened, and the game would freeze up, and you couldn't progress. It was game breaking. So you hadn't even started the new game.
Oops.
And again, you said yourself, these things happen.
Yeah, pre-release. It is what it is. But it's some really pretty moments in the game too. If you explore. There's some amazing artwork, like graffiti artwork on the walls. That's one of the collectibles. There's all those fun little collectible things. And I think what makes it feel so good, all these collectibles, and not just more work, is it's so much fun to move around. And we're back to that traversal system. Spider-Man was fun because of the traversal. No one minded picking up 32 backpacks or cassette tapes or anything because it was actually fun to move around as Spider-Man. And it's much the same here in Dying Light 2. I know the developers copped some stick for quoting, there's 500 hours in the game and blah, 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 blah. And all
500 hours of fun.
Honestly, I'm disappointed now that I had to review it. I would have enjoyed to take my time a lot more with this one and just cruise around a bit more. And I'm really hoping they add a new Game Plus soon. So I can go back and try some of those different
Oh,
choices
so you can't.
and chase
Oh,
down.
yeah. Okay, right.
Yeah, and New Game Plus and keep my and try and boost all my abilities to 100% and all that sort of thing. Because it was so much fun. And while it might not be 500 hours worth, it's more than the 30 odd hours it took me to finish the story with some of the a good chunk of side missions. But there was certainly a lot more to do, and I don't feel like I've played it out at all.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not finished at this point, but I've felt really satisfied with everything they've given me to do so far. It hasn't felt like overkill. If I quickly cycle back to the visual point from before, you obviously highlighted what it's like to navigate the city and what you can see with the graffiti and all those sort of things. Those moments early on in the game when you're actually outside of the city and it's a far more natural sort of environment is really, really striking as well. They've done some fantastic work in that regard. But yeah, cycling back to your point itself, there is lots to do. It's not... Look, maybe it does end up being close to 500 with all there might be so many layers of things out there that we're not even considering in kind of that normal sort of way. But like I'd be keen to 500's a lot. I'm not going to commit to I'm not going to commit to 500. I looked at my number one PlayStation hours thing from that thing recently, and my top was 74 last year. So I'm not hitting 500 in Dying Light, but or even getting remotely close to that. But I'll feel satisfied and I already do just really enjoy combing the world and just seeing what there is to see. Some of it's just collectibles for collectibles' sake. Others are really valuable things that just share that little bit of insight into the world and in terms of the people
there's some
there. It's that
really good environmental storytelling.
Yeah, so they've
some really good stuff.
Done a great job in that respect. One thing I really want to do once the game officially launches is try out the co-op, which you and I haven't had a chance to play. It's not available to us in this pre-release period.
And I don't think it's cross-play either.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, I'll have to find someone on PlayStation to play it with.
But
might be. We'll see what we can do. See if
I'll play with Ash or someone here. But yeah.
But like that's a really, really cool aspect that if they had something like that in the original, would have won me over. I think that would have gotten me over the line simply because of the fact that I can run around. Like I've got teammates to bail me out, people who are far more proficient in this world than I am. All those sorts of little things would have worked perfectly. Not to mention just running around and having fun with mates.
Yeah.
Here, I'm now enjoying that base game. I'm really having a great time. I feel like I'm far more confident with the mechanics that are available to us. And then I can do that with some friends and go out and really cause...
Up to four players too. So
really cause carnage.
Yeah.
Now, I'd be curious to see how things scale or whatnot. Do they just multiply everything by 4 and so it's still just a shit show? I don't know. Or are we just going to be a pack of 4 that are completely dominating everything? Like, there's a lot of fun to be had in both of those sort of ways. So I'm really keen to do that when the time comes. Like, it's got me on the hook enough that when the co-op becomes available, I'll explore it. I'll check it out.
I hope it's got some like co-op specific stuff too, to be honest, because or it scales well, because I don't think like I played it through on normal difficulty, and I didn't ever feel like it was beyond me. So I feel like I've died plenty. Don't get me wrong.
And those are those colossal stuff ups that you talked about before, where you've maybe bitten off too much, gotten yourself into a spot.
Most of the time it's my fault. I can see it really easy. The other times I might have just misread the situation or something like that. But even the boss battles and things like that, which there's a few of them, and they are quite good.
They're pretty good.
Certainly for a first-person like melee-based game. They're above average easily. It always felt like the difficulty was right on. Like it felt like it was a good balance between like this isn't too easy but I'm not dying every 2 seconds either. Yeah. So I think the balancing has been done really well. And then there are the harder difficulties. You're a Dying Light, one of those people that played thousands of hours of the original Dying Light. I'm sure you'll jump straight into super hard difficulty and
take to it like a duck to water.
Yeah. So I think it's a well-balanced game from perspective too. And you can see, like, this game took a long time to come out, but I don't feel like it was time waste. They really did mean, like, they were making the game better by delaying things. And you can see that. Like, it hasn't been wasted effort.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time leading up to this point. It's going to be a long time afterwards as well, because what are they talking about? Like 5 years of support?
5 years
like
of content.
Yeah.
And most of the times,
remains to be seen. But
most of the times I'd go, yeah, whatever for that. But Techland have got runs on the board as far as that's concerned.
yeah, I mean, it was exhaustive the amount they put into Dying Light, the original.
They had DLC for Dying Light last year, the original DLC. Like, it's, so they supported that game to ends of the earth. So I can see them doing the same again, and they have a really strong community because of that.
Yeah.
So can't see them throwing that goodwill away.
No, I'd agree. Any other thoughts about the game at all?
No, I'm really incredibly happy with it. It's better than I thought it would be.
Which says a lot, because you were really excited about this game.
I was excited for it, but the first game I was excited and enjoyed it, but I recognised it had some glaring issues. This doesn't have those glaring issues, and I was worried it was going to be another one of those rough diamond situations that found a niche crowd. This is a genuinely good open world. And in fact, it's probably the first open world since The Witcher that I've just enjoyed being in. That I just want to be. Like, I'm not saying it's as good as The Witcher. Don't quote me on that one.
Nothing
don't
from
put that
last
on
gen is as good as The Witcher.
Yeah. I think the world, though, the fact I enjoy being in the world, like everything in the world has been designed to be enjoyed. Like in the way of its systems, in the way of the combat, even the jumping puzzles are really cool. Like, I usually hate jumping puzzles. Like, they're usually shit. But,
especially in first person. First person platforming is not usually very good.
But they're really good. The windmills that you've got to power up for, they're fun to do. And they, actually get you thinking about how to use your abilities and how to use what you've got in your arm. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest takeaway from me, is just how much fun I had in the world. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, I'd wholeheartedly agree, and I've still got a whole bunch to go, so I'm looking forward to actually exploring that in the coming days and weeks. And of course, you too can get your hands on it, because Dying Light 2 Stay Human is out this week.
Yes.
So again, thank you very much to Stride PR for providing us both a code for the game, so that we can play it for you and discuss it here. Matt, your review's going to be on the Player 2 website as well.
Yep.
So be sure to check that one out as well. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, that's about it. It's been a pretty good start of the year. I've got Monster Hunter Rise and now Dying Light 2, so it's, 2 from 2 so far. Touch wood.
I mean, the world knows what I'm playing at the moment, but I cannot say peep about it. But setting that aside, it has been a very strong start to the year when you think, there's those two. Pokemon has caught everyone off guard by what it's done. And obviously we're now only just starting to kind of kick off what is a very busy Q1/2 period. So things are looking good for games in 2022. That does scare me a little bit, because there's a lot of year to come and a lot of games still on the way. So
certainly is.
If they can just dial that back a little bit so that we actually have time to enjoy everything, that'd be sweet. But I do feel like I'm thrilled that I did actually get a chance to, and like I said, not done, still intend to give this game a proper opportunity, because I think if I didn't get myself a review code, I probably would have just bundled into I didn't really like Dying Light 1.
Yep.
If you look at it through trailers and those sort of things, it doesn't really look too different, but playing it is noticeable. So I would encourage anyone who felt a little bit ho-hum about the original, especially in terms of that moment to moment, to give this a go, because it is so much more satisfying. It's so much more accommodating. It's cleaner. It's more precise. All those little quality of life things, they really, really add up to a fantastic experience. So I highly recommend it. And obviously you've sung its praises. And if anyone wants to get any further thoughts from you, they can check out your review on the Player 2 website.
Yes, as soon as I write.
Presumably around the time that this video goes live for everyone.
Yes, it'll be up before the embargo. Like, it'll be up for embargo.
Not before. We're good like
Not
that.
Before, we're good, yeah.
The moment of the embargo lifting, we'll be right there. Well, Matt will be right there. We'll be right there too. So thank you everyone for watching and or listening to this review discussion dedicated to Dying Light 2. Again, thank you to Stride PR for that. And I guess I should really shout out this beautiful disc plate that you guys sent as well. Matt, if you want it, it's yours. You being the big Dying Light fan of the two of us, you just have to say the word and I'll send it up to you. But it was a really nice little gesture that to kind of...
It looks good on the Sony stable there, mate.
Look, if I get to the end of the game and I'm dead set in love with Dying Light 2, like more so than what I am now, then to hell with you. You're not getting this thing. I'm keeping it. It can sit right there. I'll knock the stuff on top here, and it'll sit on the
It'll
wall.
look good. Yeah.
I need some good disc plates, but because I don't have any, and this has sold me on disc plate as well. That's a whole other thing though. So yeah, thank you to Stride for providing all the support when it comes to this game. We're really, really appreciative. Go check out Matt's review on the Player 2 website, and a whole host of other things that are on the Player 2 YouTube channel. But Matt, where do people go if they want to see what you're up to?
Huso81 on Twitter, or just the Player 2 AU on Twitter is the best place to find us. Everything we do obviously is at player2.net.au. We've got a whole bunch of reviews and stuff coming up. It's been a really busy start of the year, so
videos
fun and games
almost every day. Only times they don't go up is when I lose track of time and forget. But we've got stuff coming out all the time on the Player 2 YouTube site. Yes, there's the written stuff there, lots of features, lots of reviews. It is a very busy time of the year. Hell, I've still got a review coming out for Shovel Knight that came out like 3 months ago at this point that I'm just going to put out regardless. So go check all that stuff out. And yeah, that's it. Paul James Games for myself on Twitter. And to everyone watching and listening, thank you very much for doing so, and we'll see you later.
Catch you around.